When life throws you a curveball, how are you going to handle adversity? Welcome to the Fearless Mindset Podcast, where you're about to go on a journey as I interview security, business, and entertainment leaders on what it takes to stay fearless. I'm your host, Mark Ludlow, and enjoy today's episode. Hello, folks. Mark Ludlow here with the Fearless Mindset Podcast. And today we have a special guest, very unique. We're going back into the security world. And, I'm a Marine Corps vet. And so I want to pay tribute and honor our fellow veterans that have done something in their life and got the t-shirt. And so we have JJ Boone. Many of you guys know him on Facebook and all of his cool Instagram stuff that he does and social media stuff. And hey, JJ, thanks for taking the time out and jumping on the show with me.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for inviting me.
You bet. So folks, you're probably wondering who's JJ. Well, he's been around the business a long time. He's gone overseas and done some stuff. He is actually a Marine Corps vet, served his time in the Marine Corps, and also a sheriff deputy reserve. And so with that, he's been traveling all around the world, doing stuff in the Middle East. He's done stuff in Ukraine. We're going to go into that too. And I just want to get JJ's opinion on what he sees in the EP industry in the United States. What can we do better? What he sees as shady? There's good and bad in every industry, and the EP industry, I often explain it as like the cartel in different parts of the country.
Good analogy.
Good analogy, exactly. So JJ is going to give us some pointers, and young generation coming in, new generation that needs some pointers. Just get your notepad out. This will be a great note-taking experience. It'll be like a masterclass with a legend that nobody knows about because he just does his thing, So, JJ, tell us about what you think about it all. I mean, EP. Everybody's a Jason Bourne out there.
It's definitely a growing market with everything we see going on in the country with crime and stuff like that, and these random crazy incidents every day. But I also see it kind of getting flooded with a lot of times, depending on, what type of celebrity you're with. I see a lot of the rappers just picking up anybody who looks intimidating, things like that. Maybe not qualified at all to carry a gun or be in a security role. I don't know if you've seen this. I've seen it quite a few times in DC with different news crews as well, just because guys were intimidating and locals, they'd pick them up. And, some of these guys were just bottom of the barrel type dudes, like, late night strip club bouncers, that was about it. Overseas, it's interesting right now too. There's a lot of things that are said. I think a lot of things inferred from what are said, and I don't know if it's all 100% true. I've had the privilege of getting to go and see for myself what's happening numerous times, and take numerous individuals in the gun industry and the military, I guess you would say industrial complex industry over and show them around and introduce them to people and stuff on the front lines. It's a hard situation to describe if you haven't seen it firsthand. I don't think it's a situation we should take lightly, especially with our government throwing so much money at it. On the ground, you don't see where that money's going, I would say, firsthand. You hear stories from, Americans, American Army guys that have defected and come over and are fighting for Ukraine. I met a couple ROK Marines from the Republic of Korea that were fighting for Ukraine, and the stories were all the same. Like, they don't even have basic medical gear on the front lines, but here there's another $3 billion coming in, for what? It's not for beer, Band-Aids, and bullets, it's for something else, and we're not seeing where that's going. So we try as a small group to get body armor, medical supplies, other random things that these guys would need and these people would need in country for them. Sure. So we've gotten to learn a lot and meet a lot of people doing that in the Ukraine there.
Well, that's concerning to me. I mean, $3 billion or whatever it is, it's not going to hardware. It's not going to military stuff. Is someone getting rich off the war?
Well, I mean,
what's your thoughts on that?
It's not the guys on the ground, So it's someone well above us, and that's what's sad about it is because, I have a feeling, just knowing the type of person Putin is, having watched him over the years and stuff, I don't think he's the type that would willingly relinquish something like the Ukraine without having exhausted all of his options, which are including nuclear weapons. And I don't think this ends the way everybody thinks it ends. I think it ends with him saying, well, if I can't have it, nobody can, and dropping a few tactical nukes in places that we can't inhabit them for 60, 80 years, So
what's the morale on the ground over there right now? Because I know a friend of mine, Mike Hill, just returned. He was doing something on the ground over there. I'm not sure exactly what. And I know he was the other guy that was over there, Pete Morton. He was over there doing some, I think, humanitarian healthcare stuff. I'm not sure of the details. And then I know you're over there. What is the morale now on the ground that they had this quote unquote victory? Is that even a victory, or is that a PR press stunt?
The last time I was there was actually right before that was announced, and from the local Ukrainians, they're always positive. Like, they always believe they're going to win, and they are always for Ukraine, and it's something to be admired, especially watching what's happening to the United States right now, with lack of love and awareness for your own country's standing in the world. All the natives are super positive all the time. Even after bad things happen, like you hear about the trains getting bombed, I haven't seen it personally, but you hear about it, and they're still, it's okay. We're going to go on. It will be Ukraine. From the more Western educated Americans, or the ROK Marines, the ROK Marines had fought in Iraq with us in 2006. So they deployed with, U.S. Marines in 2006. And they were a lot more pessimistic about the chances of victory, just in the fact that their leadership didn't seem up to par with what we were used to for, small squad tactics, hit and move type tactics. It seemed like they were still stuck in the trench warfare mind frame of, let's dig in and wait here and, just take artillery for months. So
what type of, seems like they're very mobile and very strategic over there and very calculated. That's why they're having the success against the Russian military right now. It seems like they're getting some advice on the ground from somebody with a very technical background. I'm guessing there's probably some special forces guys from different countries that are on the ground there giving them advice.
There are, and those are some of the things we've been trying to set up as well for different units that we've met and stuff. They specifically request Americans come and train them, combat Americans, or American soldiers that have seen combat. Sorry. Okay. And I wouldn't hesitate to say it was probably a stipulation getting this money is, hey, if we're going to give you this money, you're going to take some advice instead of doing this the old school way, which is just bomb the shit out of each other. Let's use some tactics and actually gain some ground. We're just, we're not doing anything here. I know the globalists and elites hate Putin for some reason,
Why is that?
I was told a long time ago, it was because, him, Iran, Venezuela. I was told this by an old Iranian geologist years and years ago, that it was because they wouldn't sign on to the global fiat currency, which then basically enslaved your country because you can never pay it off. Mm-hmm. And so the rest of the world was kind of like, they're the outcasts. Mm-hmm. And, so we can say whatever we want about these countries, but until you go see them for yourselves and stuff, and see how the people live, or if the people even like it, I think it's our duty as Americans, especially if we're going to call ourselves a superpower, before we impose something on another country, let's go check it out and see how they live. Like, and mm-hmm. Do they hate it? Do they love it? Do they want the guy gone? What do they want? So I don't think we should, from our position of indulgence over here, just jump to conclusions automatically about certain places. And during COVID, I was in probably the last 2.5 years. I've been to like 50 countries.
Have you really? You've been all over the world.
Yeah. from
Yeah, the
Albania
US, they
to
forget it.
Congo to Zambia to South Africa a couple times. And you know what I mean? I've been all over. So I feel like, you know, we have a great chance of losing a lot of things if we don't pay attention to what's happening in these countries. But I also don't think it's the right time for us to go around forcing them to do things.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Wow. What made you go over to Ukraine out of curiosity, just to help out, or you're just asked by somebody you know that was trying to do some stuff? More of the business support.
My trips to Ukraine initially started when, so I work with a company called Fullspectrum Warrior Inc. It's owned by a Navy SEAL, Rich Graham. He was a SEAL Team 10 sniper. And our lawyer, his wife is a dual citizen of the Ukraine and the US, and she's a lawyer over there.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of her family members are like her cousins, her uncles. They're in parliament in the Ukraine. And my first mission was to go over and get 2 of the wives and 4 of the daughters out. It was the 3rd day of the war. So I was contracted by a bunch of the parliament people initially.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So you went under their umbrella with their grace and with their signature always on you to come in. They knew you're coming with that person to do an operation. Okay. Totally makes sense.
They weren't, I don't know if everybody's, you know, up to date on all that stuff. They weren't letting men 15 or 16 to 60 out of the country. They were all kind of in situ drafted.
Yeah. I remember that.
So all the dads basically had to stay. So
wow.
They wanted their females out.
Yeah, for protection. Now, I remember you telling me on the phone that the other East Bloc countries are very nervous at what Russia may do next, because if he gets away with Ukraine, they're expecting him to go to their countries next.
Yeah, and we already kind of see it in Belarus. You know, just north of Ukraine, they're kind of already back in the new Soviet Union. And I know Poland's very on edge about it. There was a lot of talk about the tanks on the border and the troops on the border and stuff. And it makes sense, you know, it seems like if he were to gain momentum by taking the Ukraine, he would go somewhere else, or at least try. I don't think Poland would be his first choice. But I can understand why they're hesitant and stuff like that, and have been stocking up on things since this started. It's an interesting feeling when you're there. You know, there's a lot of Russian defectors from the military running around in Warsaw. There's a lot of what appears to be like their intelligence agency, but they're not intelligent. They're not the brightest. You know what I mean? So they want pictures with you. They want, you know what I mean? They want things. And it's a very 80s, early 90s mentality, I feel, still to the area of the Cold War still going on, you know? And then coupled with the Eastern Bloc architecture, it's, you know what I mean? I feel like I'm in a Bond movie. So, a badly written one.
Oh, how do you do it? I mean, are you stressed or scared when you're over there doing what you're doing over there on the ground with them? Or does it phase you at all? Your training prepare you for it all?
I train a lot, and I feel like on the ground, it's not so much nerves about like getting hurt or something like that. It's failing and being exposed for what we're trying to do a lot of times in the child recovery to get them out, or the bringing in of armor and med supplies and stuff kind of under the radar. Some countries are friendly with what we're doing, some aren't. And a lot of times, depending on what's going on, you have to take numerous different routes through backwoods Europe, which, you know, I know a lot of Americans who've never traveled have this idea of what Europe is, but I can assure you that the backwoods of Slovakia, Hungary, and Romania are not a cool place to get caught as an American, you know, especially with.
How come?
It reminds me a lot of, no offense to anybody, Appalachia. You know, I drilled oil for a long time in the Pennsylvania, West Virginia area. And it's just a very small, tight-knit culture that doesn't like outsiders. And, if you go missing, no one's saying anything. So it kind of reminded me of that experience. It just in the old world, so everything, there's castles everywhere. Very, very unique.
So you don't think Putin's going to stop? He's going to keep on going. I heard through a pretty credible source yesterday that was at the GSX conference that there's an assumption that Putin may have cancer.
I mean, don't we all?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that would be the worst news for all of us, because I don't think he would want to go out on that note. I know he's a Russian loyalist and he loves Russia. He was a young man in the KGB, and one of his goals has always been to kind of reunite all those old Russian lands that got broken up there at the end. And I don't think he's the type of person that if he found out he had cancer or terminal cancer or an illness like that, he would just be like, all right, my world ambitions are done. I think he would actually escalate it.
Interesting. Good point. That's a very good point, actually. So you don't think Russia's going to stop right now? This is going to be an ongoing thing until he gets what he wants. He's going to fight double down.
Like yeah, I feel like that.
Wow.
And it's not a superpower going against Bedouins in the mountains of Afghanistan, or it's not a superpower it's not Saudi Arabia going after Yemen. You know what I mean? It's Russia and the Ukraine. Both are very proud tribes in that area and have been for a long time. And I feel like this has been a fight that's been brewing just, if you want to look at the internet banter even, you know what I mean?
Sure.
For the last few years, we've kind of known this was coming and I feel like it almost needed to happen.
Do you think this will be a positive for the contracting world, especially the U.S.-based guys that are okay?
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of money to be made if you're a contractor in the U.S. You're going to go over there.
Yeah, and I feel like this president's a positive for the contracting world, to be honest.
Oh, Putin?
No, Biden.
Interesting. Why so? Why you say that? I'm curious.
Well, just letting all these big cities slip into such chaos and stuff. And
yeah. Okay.
Right. Unfortunately, that's good for business. It's not my fault. People didn't. I don't speculate on what people do with their free time, but I kind of, just as a Marine, always kept in mind that this is kind of what's going to happen. And it's happened throughout time in our country's history. It goes through waves of these crime epidemics, and then they crack down real hard. And so I kind of just always stayed ready, and I can't see a time when we shouldn't have. And I've heard a lot lately from friends that quote, I forget who said it, but strong men create weak men who create weak times. And
wow, good point. Yeah, there's a lot going on in Ukraine, and I know everybody's thinking about it. I know the news is not really covering it right now. They don't want to touch it. They don't really talk about it. They're staying as far away as they can, and probably for the reasons like you just said, like why are we giving them billions of dollars of U.S. taxpayer dollars and nothing being accounted for, and who's it going to?
Exactly.
That's a concern of mine. Being a U.S. citizen, a veteran like yourself, I'm like, where's this money going?
Yeah.
We just
money. It's not a couple million. It's billions every week.
Billions every week, and it's not going to military equipment.
No, the guys on the front lines are telling us they have 3 magazines.
What?
Yeah, and in Iraq, I had access to all the magazines I ever wanted. If you can lug around 25 mags in Fallujah, go ahead, bud. We need it.
That's just concerning to me, being a concerned citizen of where our money is going. And I'm all for Ukraine's independence from Putin and Russia, but what really going on with our money? Why do the politicians not care about where our inflation's going? They just don't seem to care.
No, and that's why I feel like it's an overall plan to kind of break us. And it started with the COVID stuff, and now it's onto the money. And there's going to be endless wars that we have to finance, and eventually we're going to be so broke, something's going to snap. It's just a matter of
the bubble can't keep on getting bigger and bigger.
No.
It's crazy right now. So I want to draw back to your, you've been a deputy reserve for a while now, 6 years, you said, and you work on law enforcement. You're also in the executive protection industry in the United States. And like you said, there's a lot of, rappers hiring their buddies to bodyguard them, which is a huge liability. Do you see the industry getting worse or better as far as the quality of a product going towards that client?
This is going to sound pessimistic. Ever since that shooting at the Teague rally in Colorado, I believe it was, I've seen it getting better, actually. People are a little more hesitant just to hire, their buddy with tattoos at 6'5" because he's intimidating. And he says he can carry a gun, So I've seen it getting a lot better since then. And I see a lot of people interested in doing what we do. I don't think that's a bad thing per se. I think it's hard to find the type of person some jobs require. For instance, we have a rapper that lives in northern North Carolina, and a bunch of us rotate in and out. But we know we can't be there all the time, and there's some locals that fill in, and it's hard to say that they're doing their job because these rappers will have parties and these guys are wanting to intermingle, and and it's like, hey bud, like, we've actually had to shoot people on this property. You can't be worried about what they're doing. You got to do your job. You know what I mean? I feel like sometimes there's still a little bit of the celebrity awe struck people, but I feel like it's getting a lot better.
And what's your view on using social media to get work jobs? Is it like there's a lot of private groups on Facebook? I know you're on Facebook quite a bit with your dog training and stuff. It seems like you're really passionate about that.
I use Facebook and Instagram for work a lot of times. You can make yourself look one way on there though, and be a total, different person in real life. That's a problem you can run into. And we've seen that in the tactical industry a few times in some of the places I've worked and stuff, misrepresentation off social media and stuff like that. But all in all, I feel like, especially for the private security industry, I feel like people are intrigued by it, so it's a nice marketing tool. And then if you can reach out to those type of clients on those platforms, on Instagram and stuff like that, because a lot of these people might not be celebrities that we know, but they got to go somewhere for a meeting and they're sketched out and they just want you to go with them. You know what I mean? I got a meeting in Philadelphia, or just a day job or something like that. So I don't feel like it's the worst thing, but it can lead to misrepresentation.
Do you get a lot of business from Instagram by chance, or Facebook, or where's your biggest source?
Instagram.
Really? No kidding.
Yeah. And then word of mouth from friends, you know what I mean, or people in the industry.
So word of mouth is probably your biggest source of business.
That's what I would say.
And then with Instagram, people just hit you up, say, hey, I saw your post, blah, 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 blah. We'll talk with you. Oh, wow. That's pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm. Which I had a much larger Instagram. I had like almost 4,000 followers, and then I got hacked.
Oh no!
So I had to start over a few months ago. I'm almost at 1,000 again, but the more followers you have, the more people comment and stuff, the more your stuff gets shared. And the dogs, I feel like, also help a lot because it's another asset we have for personal protection or EP or police, or you know what I mean. I got a charity up for one that we're trying to get to the Ukrainian military now. So there's all different levels of dog, and it's also it's super beneficial in today's world because we might be distracted with something, but that dog can instantly tell when somebody's bad news.
And the dogs are very reliable and such a huge asset, especially with guys dealing with PTSD, depression issues. They're a great companion for that.
Yeah, 100%. Which is, unfortunately, there's a lot of vets in our industry. So pairing them with an EOD dog, for some of these clients isn't a bad idea. The dogs are, just as intimidating as a 6'8" dude. And they can also sniff for bombs. And, so.
Right. Now, here's a question for licensing for dog. Do you have to have like a state license, or you can go and jump on a jet, take the dog anywhere? Or do you usually take a vehicle and transport?
So my EOD dog is state and nationally certified to sniff for drugs and be a patrol dog. He can fly. He has a passport. Typically, if he were to fly, he'd have to be in the cargo hold. People think it's horrible, but on these super large planes, those are pressurized. There's people down there. It's not horrible,
Not horrible.
Have you been in coach on a 19-hour flight to Qatar lately? I can talk about some horrible experiences.
I'm sure.
So, he can fly, but I prefer to drive just because, most of my jobs are from, in the Northeast to Florida. And so It's not a big deal to me. Branching out lately with you guys, though.
Yeah, appreciate it. I'm going to be working with Eric Kattenberger and JJ. They just got licensed in Nevada, so they're going to be joining me on a 4,000 person event with the direct client in Las Vegas. So we're going to come down and we're going to work together. So we'll probably see some stuff with us together, probably take some photos and do some, we call it EP Holy Communion time. And here's a question, JJ. Depression's a big deal within the military. Suicides. Military has probably the highest suicide rate of any occupation in the country. And do you have any advice to those veterans that are struggling with depression, PTSD issues, and anxiety?
If you've got another veteran friend, reach out to them. I was in Fallujah in 2005, and
wow.
We still check up on each other, and it was a joke for a little while. Like, we just text each other, are you alive? Are you alive? Just recently, one of the guys, he told me he was going out to Montana for 2 weeks, going to live in the backwoods. About 2 weeks and a couple days went by, and I'm like, where's John? He hasn't said anything. So I texted him, are you alive? And he said, just barely. I got struck by lightning 3 days ago. Yeah.
Whoa.
So, but it was, when you read through the text messages from before that, he was nervous about going out there this time of year. And I kind of brushed it off. I went to college in Montana. So I kind of brushed it off. I was like, you'll love it. It's beautiful. Dude gets struck by lightning. I feel like such an idiot brushing it off like it was nothing, I was like, dude, grizzly attacks are nothing, dude. You're not going to see a grizzly.
I got some friends in LA. They go, aren't you afraid you're running into a mountain lion or a bear or a cougar or something when you're hiking the woods there by the river? I'm like, no, I don't think about it. I was raised
way
here.
Too loud. Yeah, I don't think about it. I am way too loud. If they really want to tangle with this loud, stinky creature, then
What's the best therapy for veterans struggling with depression, anxiety, or suicidal? What's the best remedy for that? What's your answer? Your advice to those folks?
I've found for myself, a lot of the help has come from dogs. And, I started just going to the dog shelter with the dogs that were locked up for no reason, and working with them, trying to get them homes. And I don't know what it is about the dog, but they really helped me a lot. From the shelter, I started to get into the bite suit for the SEALs and stuff like that were training their dogs. I went from there to learning how to train the dogs to do that stuff. And now when I'm in Ohio, we train probably along the lines of the most amount of police dogs every quarter from this side of the Mississippi, I would have to say. Right now, I think we have 32 dogs at our kennel. We start a class. We just ended a class of 11. We start a class of 11 here in like a week. So, so we take them from green pups to certified police dogs in about 2 months. And it's a lot of work, but it takes a lot of patience. And I don't know, it's just helped me a lot with, because I was a point man in Fallujah in the Marine Corps. I was 19 years old. I was kidnapping Mujahideen terrorists in the middle of the night and kicking in doors, and you know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah.
That had to be wild.
It was wild. And a lot of my friends had problems when we came. I had problems when I first got out. You know, we were lunatics. And
how so? What was that like? Crazy stuff?
Yeah, chasing the rush of combat that you can't get back.
The rush.
You know what I mean? That
Dopamine.
adrenaline dump that you can't get back. So that was a huge problem for us. We didn't really have any formal classes on like what to do. You know, I think we had like a 15-minute brief when we first got home where it was, don't drive down the middle of the roads. Not everybody's your enemy here. Like, you know what I mean? Like pretty short and sweet. And they were like, all right, get out of here for a month. And I don't blame anybody. It was early on in the war. There's a lot of combat for a lot of young dudes, and people would never, the higher ups had never seen combat either. You know, we didn't have a lot of non-vets left or anything like that. So it was a super interesting experience. We were nuts.
We were nuts.
Yeah.
Out of your mind.
Yeah, we're back.
Did you have what was the fear cycle? The process of having fear in your missions every day. Did you have fear, or are you just like, let's go get them? There's no
first
fear.
couple times, and then after that, it was let's go get them. It was
really,
yeah.
So you had to get over that threshold of break the glass the glass filling of fear in your head. And once you did it a couple times of repetition and practice, it was like not a big deal.
No, not at all. And it was kind of exciting and fun, and tip of the spear type stuff. So we were loving it.
You guys must have had a lot of kills.
It was we had more kidnappings than kills, but we had some good times. We had some good times.
And so the bonding with you guys must be tight, like brothers from a different family.
Yeah, for sure. There's not many of us left anymore.
How many did you guys start off with?
In 38 Kilo Company, we had probably almost 200 dudes.
Wow.
And, we lost a lot in Ramadi, our second deployment, between the Tigris and the Euphrates. And then we lost a lot to their own hand when we came home. So I'd say there's probably 25 of us, 30 of us that still are, sometimes we'll lose one for a few years. Like we don't know where he's at, what he's doing. Turns out he joined the army or did something like I did. You know what I mean? Just needed to feel it again.
Got to get that dopamine hit, the download.
Yeah. And then they're back. And then you're like, we thought you were gone, bro.
It seems like you guys thrive in chaos.
I feel like I perform better in chaos.
Interesting. A lot of people are scared to death to do that.
Even some of the Marines in the infantry were, when I was in Fallujah, the first times we would get shot at, guys would be on the ground in the fetal position crying, and you'd literally have to explain to them, like, dude, you're going to get shot down there just like you're going to get shot up here. Stand up like a man. You don't want your mom to hear you were laying on the ground crying, and an AK round skipped off the ground and hit you in the forehead.
Wow. So it's like in the fetal position, in total uniform and kitted out, and they're in a ball.
Petrified. And it's like, dude, these dudes are horrible shots,
So they have to flip a switch in their mind psychologically. I'm going to either go fight or flight. What are you going to do? And they have seconds to react.
We'd keep those guys. Once we saw that, we'd keep them in the wire, or they weren't allowed to leave the truck. They could only drive, or you know what I mean? Stuff like that.
Whoa. It was that much chaos going on.
Yeah, it was. Well, with the IEDs and stuff, it got pretty in RPGs. A lot of our patrols in Fallujah were in really thin-skinned Humvees, barely any armor, if that. And what would happen is, like, the Army would pass through with their Bradleys, and they pass through a couple times in a week, and the scale of IED would go up significantly. They'd be attacking Bradleys, and we're here on foot, or in these no armor Humvees, like flying around trying to kidnap people. And all of a sudden it starts raining ungodly hell on us. And some guys just couldn't handle it.
What was the typical response from the guys that couldn't handle it? Oh my God, they start crying. I'm going to die.
Yeah, pretty much. Or hide, or you could see, like, they wouldn't go forward.
Wow. And I remember I just had a flashback. I think it's the first phase of Marine Corps boot camp. And we're all running in formation, doing like 3 mile PT, whatever it was. And this recruit goes up to a drill instructor, goes, "Sir, this recruit requests to make a head call, sir." And the drill instructor turns around and just yells and screams at him like they always do. And then the guy, he so froze up that he kept on asking the drill instructor permission to use the head because he had to do something. We just got done with chow. And the next thing you know, you see like muddy water running down his leg. And the DI turns around and he starts yelling, "Why didn't you go use the head?" "But sir, get out of my," you know the rest of the story. It's like, but people just in chaos, sometimes they just freeze. And they can't get over that pendulum. That's why boot camp's there, folks, because boot camp trains you to perform in chaos and allows JJ from that basic boot camp experience to thrive in the middle of chaos to get a mission done. That's why boot camp exists, folks. It's
so
not
they made it weaker.
What's that?
And they're making it weaker.
Oh, no way. That's a detriment to the military.
Yeah, I agree. And they're having problems with recruiting, and that's on them though.
Are you afraid of the future of our Marine Corps and our military service members? I'm just
a little bit.
Not going to be ready.
I have 3 young kids, and I'm getting too old to keep doing this.
What are you, 30 something?
I'll be 38 in November.
Okay, you're in your 30s. Okay.
Yeah, and then I see a lot of problems on the horizon if we can't field a good military.
I would agree with that.
I also feel like as I've traveled the world so much, we're looked at differently as Americans. We're one of the only places that plays American football. Everybody else plays rugby, but I can tell you what, they love American football.
They do.
I don't know why they don't play it. I think they're afraid of it.
The combativeness of it. Yeah,
and here we are making it a softer game so more people can play it. That's not the American way. We showed the rest of the world, hey, we'll beat each other up for fun on TV. We'll just smash into the greatest athletes we've ever had on national television, and the rest of the world respects us. And I feel like, I was in Albania right after the election where Trump lost, and we were on a child rescue mission, hopping the border a bunch of times from Greece to Albania. And the Albanians were like, "What happened?" They were asking because it was on the cover, it was on the front page of their newspapers. They love Trump over there.
How come?
I don't normally pick a side or anything like that.
Yeah.
And we were like
devastated by that.
We'll say that again.
They were devastated by Trump's loss over there.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that says something, because Trump, I feel like, is quintessential what I grew up remembering as an American male. Whether you like him or not, the dude's he's gonna do things. He's gonna win. He's gonna lose sometimes, but he's gonna get back up and he's gonna win again. He's an American. He's a New Yorker. And I think the rest of the world looks at him the same way. And he was strong. He stood by what he said. And here now we have a spineless, dementia patient in the office. And anything he says one thing with a satanic backdrop, and the next day he retracts it. And it's like, if this isn't George Orwell's 1984,
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, here the Marines were in, and it was all red in the background. I'm like, what's this all about? I'm like, okay. Yeah. But yeah, you brought something interesting up for the audience. Whether I'm an independent. I served under Bill Clinton and Hillary, and I was willing to give my life for your freedom, folks. I was willing to die under Bill Clinton's watch. So that's where I stand politically. And I'm all for pro-America. I'm a Marine. If you hate that, well, don't listen to the podcast then. Don't listen, don't subscribe. I'm a Marine Corps vet, and I love my country. So if you don't like that, go be woke. But anyway, with that said, you've traveled all over around the world. What is the general consensus of Trump out there from what you've heard and seen?
Most of the people like him.
No kidding.
Yeah, even in Africa.
What?
Yep.
Wow.
There were a lot of questions about Trump everywhere we go. Not so much these days because his hysteria has kind of died out with the elections, but early on there, the first year of COVID and then the election year and stuff, you know, there was a lot of talk about him. So
wow, that is wild to me because our media paints such a different picture. What's your opinion of the media? Since we're talking about this, I mean, do you see the media being America's worst adversary?
A little bit.
Okay.
I feel, especially when their commercials are for, the first commercial after they say we'll be right back is for pharma or, big pharma and what we just saw. And, I feel like they're kind of one of they've been granted the ability to use propaganda. And so now to keep the ratings high and stuff, they push things so things get worse.
Wow. As far as the EP, you're in the EP industry as well. You said you think the executive protection industry is best days are ahead?
I do.
A bigger need because of civil unrest and where the country is heading. Yeah,
exactly. And then, the rise of these crypto millionaires, billionaires, things like that, just normal people getting rich, and the nature of the cities those people tend to frequent, and the crime rates.
Right. That's not going to die down anytime soon.
Not in my opinion, no.
No. What's your advice to the young generation getting in the industry? I mean, there's all kinds of training schools out there they can go to. If we have some young EP listeners, we got political a little bit, JJ has his point of view. I have my point of view. You don't have to agree with us. That's the freedom of America. Just imagine if you lived in China, we couldn't even have this podcast being broadcasted in China because they don't have freedom of speech. And right. I just had Roger Stone on a couple of weeks ago. Very nice guy. I may not agree with everything my guests say, but I believe in uncensorship communication. I believe the listeners should hear facts and know facts of what the media is not telling us. And I want to be unfiltered. So JJ has the right to say whatever he wants to say and have the opinion. And if you have a problem with that, guess what? We do live in America, folks. You need to look at the Constitution and the Bill of Rights because it is written there of our freedoms. Enough said of that. But what's your advice to the young generation that are just going through depression? We have a lot of men right now going through a lot of depression right now, I've heard statistically. And what's your advice, of men being men and just being okay with being a dude?
Yeah, I feel like this whole, toxic male fad will pass. Passed real quick in the Ukraine when Russia invaded. They weren't saying, oh, let's keep all the women to go to the front line. They said, let's keep the boys 16 to 60. You know what I mean? So, I would say to those who are kind of, in a weird time, because there are a lot of dudes in a weird time right now, I feel like, get outside, work out, try dogs, if you're not into dogs, try cats. Don't live this stagnant lifestyle they want you to live. 10 minutes before this podcast, I just finished running with my 2 dogs. Once I'm done with it, I think I'll probably run them again because I get the day off today. So
you always keep yourself moving. That's the key. You're always moving.
Always
moving the body.
Yep. And when new opportunities present themselves, you asked earlier if I was afraid. I'm more afraid of looking like a wuss. So when someone's like, "Hey, do you want to go to the Ukraine?" All right, I'll go to the Ukraine. Especially at this time in history.
You're in history. You're making history.
You're making history, and there's a lot going on. Don't be afraid to get out there and see what's going on for yourself. Be an influence in those situations. You know what I mean? There's a lot that can be done when you actually go see these things firsthand. And I would say don't be nervous about, what's gonna happen. Well, the if, ands, or buts, everybody could die. Like you said earlier, something about cancer. I think we all have cancer. That's just the way I look at it. We all do, right? Everybody I know has it. It's just whether or not we know it or not yet,
Right.
With everything going on in the world, especially in the major cities in our country, which we frequent quite a lot, it could be our last day any day. So
true. So true.
Great point. Especially in our job, I'm paid to step in front of a rapper if he's getting shot at, or, you know what I mean? Like that happens a lot. So
it does.
Who knows what's going to happen? I've never let the fear of the unknown stop me from getting to go cool places, meet cool people, do something new. It's a huge world, and there's a lot to see, and there's tons of awesome people out there. I've never been to a country where people were me, ever.
Really?
Yep, wow. Never. And I've walked into bars in Congo on the dirt road, and it was a great experience, and I was the only white guy for probably 1,000 miles, but I fit right in. Everybody was awesome, and it's a memory I'll always have, and they'll always have the memory of meeting us. You know what I mean? So
right. So your advice to the young generation getting in business is just don't be afraid to try things. Go after it.
Be afraid to try things, because one thing leads to another always.
That's so true in the network. I met Eric years ago at the Cliff Protection Conference we're going to in Vegas with my team, and he was with his buddy, and we just connected. And the next thing we had the Fox circuit we're supporting Fox Corporation for security. Right. And Eric, he flew from Ohio to Miami to do the job. I'm like, who does that? I can't even get a cop from LA to go 2 hours to go work a job. And Eric jumps on a flight from Ohio into Miami, does a job for a week, hits the ball in the park, and now that I think the chief security officer, whoever the guy was, the lead, I want Eric. So Eric was going from one stadium to another stadium doing the college football games. Yeah. And he was just on a roll. He was having a blast, but he wasn't afraid to take the risk. And so many people go, well, is this paid for? Eric's like, we'll figure it out. And so many people are so cautious right now, and they go, well, is this paid for? Is lodging paid for? Is my hotel paid for? Yeah, you kind of want to know that, but if the bill rate's good enough, if you're making $90 an hour, pay for it yourself.
Yeah.
But I see a change, and people are demanding, well, this got to be paid for, this be paid for before I go anywhere. Whereas a corporation
it's like the unionization.
And I think the last time I checked, I think we're going into a recession, last time I heard. And I'm hearing all over the place, corporations are cutting security budgets nationwide. Are you hearing that and seeing that too?
Corporations, like larger corporations, like the news people, a little bit, yeah. Private clients, no. I see them kind of increasing them a little bit.
Good point.
High
net worth, family office type thing.
Yeah. And that runner that just got kidnapped, the random people going around shooting and stuff, these are major cities, and regardless if the clients like it or not, they have to do business in those cities. And sometimes lately it's just pick us up from the airport, take us to the building, wait in the car, take us back to the airport. They just like the peace of mind of having somebody like us around, in and out. So I would say that's a 50-50. Yeah. Big, large corporations, which they'll come back around too when their people start to complain that the parking lots aren't safe, or the parking garage isn't safe, or, you know what I mean?
So sounds like you're pretty heavily in the entertainment business with the rappers and the musicians.
Not heavily. I worked for the Trumps during the campaign. I worked for a few crypto billionaires. They're actually my favorite people to work for. The Prince of the UAE and his brother. We have a rapper or two here and there. It's just, you see a lot of the bad points of EP when you're working with the rappers.
Oh, yeah. No, you mentioned you worked with the Trumps. What was that experience like for you? Were they pretty nice people? Were they stuck up?
Really nice people, actually. And I've never seen so many people show up in the snow to see one man speak. And wait
in the snow?
In the snow in Pennsylvania. Numerous times. There'd be, 80, 90,000 people outside these airports and stadiums to watch this guy. And it'd be 10 degrees, and they'd be standing out there for all day long just to see this guy give the same speech he gave 25 miles away.
No kidding.
Yeah. So
I heard he's pretty charismatic.
he is. And so is the family.
Oh, are they? Okay.
Yeah.
Have you interacted with Donald Trump himself?
No, with Pence and Melania and a lot of the Secret Service guys. His youngest daughter was actually the only rally we had an incident at. She was in Cranberry, Pennsylvania, and it was the first ever Republican all-gay pride rally. And it was indoors at a super fancy Italian restaurant, but they were serving drinks in the glasses still. And we told them that's probably going to be a problem. People started throwing glasses at her, and
they did.
Super nice. It was those interesting looking people with all the rainbow colored hair and stuff.
Gotcha. Copy that.
Yeah.
So it sounds like they're pretty nice people.
Yeah. Very nice.
I think usually the clients doesn't matter what party you are, they know you're protecting them, so they got to be nice to you because they know you got your back, regardless of what party.
We know everything already, so we know where we're going. We know what we're doing.
So it seems like you got a lot of experience in the political side from that year. Campaigning.
Right after the January 6th incident, Eric and I were attached to CNN. And so we were down there when they put the wall up, and during that time, I got attached to CNN for the second January 6th. And then there was a bunch of other smaller gigs here and there in DC. So we were around that for a while.
What'd you think of all that? The wall and DC, that's a different animal, a different beast, isn't it?
It's a total different beast. It was like martial law, though,
Wow.
Show up at military checkpoints. They wouldn't have magazines in their guns and stuff, which I didn't understand. But
whoa, they didn't have magazines in their guns, or they didn't? Oh, okay. So they didn't want to give out the military war type of perception, probably.
Yeah, but they had MRAPs out and a whole squad of dudes sitting on every corner, and you're like,
what the heck?
Yeah, super
really?
Interesting time.
DC?
I got some crazy selfies from that period of time.
Man, you guys excited a lot during that election period.
Yeah.
Wow. Anything you want to add to the audience listening? Any advice in the security world, or any pointers?
Keep your head on a swivel, stay in shape. I appreciate you letting me on today. Hope to do it again. This is a good time.
Yeah, it just worked out, folks. Yeah, we've been trying to do this for about a month or so. Yeah. And JJ's been busy. And he told me some stories about what he did in Ukraine. That's the big hot spot. Everybody wants to know what's going on in Ukraine because the media is not talking about it.
Yeah, I go back the middle of November, and we'll go back to the front lines. This last trip, I took the owner and chief editor for Recoil magazine, and there's an article about our trip in the current issue.
Is there? Okay.
Yep.
Is that already published?
Yes, it's in stores.
Recoil magazine. So I'll have my podcast team put that on the YouTube, and then we'll link your LinkedIn. You're LinkedIn too, right?
Yeah, LinkedIn, Instagram. I can send you the article as well.
Yeah. So listeners, you'll see that on the YouTube. My team publishes it. We'll make sure that's attached to this too as well. So you can check that out in Recoil magazine. And you can find JJ on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Where are you?
Facebook, Instagram. Instagram's normally where I get the most work done. At Timberwolf, WOOF 0311.
Oh, Timberwolf on Instagram, 0311. Got it. Okay. And folks, please subscribe to this show. I'm not going to split this up because the conversation is really good. So this is going to be almost an hour show. Because usually I divide them up, but this is such good content. We're just going to do one show. We're going to drop it. And so I'm going to give you guys all a little bonus. But please subscribe to JJ's social media platform. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, Mark Ludlow, and the Mark Ludlow on Instagram. And I'll tag JJ on the podcast reel that we do. And I'm on Twitter as well, LinkedIn as well. So follow us all there. And thanks, folks, for tuning in and hearing what JJ has to share and his battle stories in Iraq and Fallujah, the front lines of Ukraine, and dealing with the Putin's henchman over there, and keep him in your thoughts and prayers as he goes over there in November. Maybe we may even do a live update from Ukraine when you're over there too.
Yeah, that works.
We could do Instagram or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Stay tuned to that, folks. We might just set that up for you guys. So we have the real news, the raw, uncensored, filtered, unfiltered facts. All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in and thanks for joining us. And we'll catch you on the next episode of the Fearless Mindset Podcast. See you soon.